So one day, the Obersturmbannführer came, and I don't know why he came to our house, unless he came to the whole street. But anyhow, he came in, and then he called me out, and he said, "Do you want to work for me?" So I said, "Well, I have to." So he said, "Okay, you'll come with me now." And so he took me in his car, and he took me where he lived. And he said that you'll take care of the house, you'll clean. So I stayed. I said, "Sure, I have to work." So he wrote me a note that I can go by myself to the ghetto and from the ghetto. And I was really the first one who had a permission to go, because at that time they didn't have yet any working working units to go out. That was established later. So I was really the first one who worked and who could go back and forth by myself.
What was he like? What type of person was he?
I really didn't have too much in common with him. I'll tell you, I have to say, to me, he was good. But he also had like a valet working for him, probably when they went from town to town or what. And he was an elderly man, and he really was also good to me. When we ate, he always sat at the same table with me. And he talked to me, and one day he said to me, "You know, Miriam, I would like to shoot you." So I said, "What did I do to you?" And as I said, we were good, you know. He says, "You know, you'll be all killed anyhow. I'll shoot you, I'll hit you right in the heart, you won't suffer." So that was my friend.
What was the Obersturmbannführer's job?
He was a commander of the ghetto. He came to the ghetto, and whatever today he came, and then he said, so one day they came, they need 500 young men to take books from one side to the other. So they took out 500. I don't know if it was exactly 5, but anyhow, a big, and that was really, you know, the youth they took. And I mean, I knew a few of those boys, and with one I was quite friendly, also the family. So one day the father came to me and he says, "You know, you work for him, might be asked." And they said that they are alive and they are working in a library, you know, and it's like a picnic there. So he says, "You know, you go to ask him where are they, and it might be through you, he could come back, you know." So I asked the valet, I said, "You know, do you know anything where the 500 young people are?" He said, "Why?" I said, "Well," so I couldn't say, "No, I know them." I said, "You know, one is my fiancé." So he must have asked the Sturmbannführer that Miriam has, you know. So one day he came back and he says, "You know what that Sturmbannführer said? He feels sorry for you." So you knew that they were all killed. So then we lived in the ghetto. Meanwhile, they had established workplaces. My dad worked on the airport. They built a new airport. They had in different factories, they needed people. So there, every morning, you had to assemble before the gate, and mostly the same people went to the same places. And then the Germans or even the Lithuanian police came and they picked up their units there, and they took them to town, and in the evenings they brought them back. Now, to go into town was a good thing, because in those days, the inhabitants, you know, the ghetto people, still had their own clothes, their own linen, tablecloths, the silver and the gold that we didn't have anymore because that was taken away right away. But we had our own stuff. So they could take it along, and on the working place, the Lithuanian people, they wanted those things. So they used to bring like butter and potatoes and flour, and they exchanged it. But you know, everything was done in haste, and you didn't see, if they told you, here's a loaf of bread, and it was only half a loaf, you didn't know. And so, and that you could bring back. If you were caught bringing it back, you got hurt, you got hit, and it was taken away from you. And then when you came home, unfortunately, sometimes you found that, you know, you were happy you got, it might be a piece of butter. So you were very happy, you'll have a piece of butter for the children. And then when you cut it, they had put in mashed potatoes and only covered it up with the butter. So, and sometimes flour was wet. But meanwhile, it was better than nothing. When the front got closer, they were talking about that they'll evacuate us. And in June 44, they came and they said, that's it.
Who said?
The Germans, and so they came with big trucks, and they said everybody should go on the trucks. We can take along a little thing, and I don't remember where they said they are taking us. That I really don't know. And as I told you before, that a lot of shelters people had built. So in the beginning, we were all in a shelter. You know, my husband and my father and my brother and my aunt and the cousin and the children. My Aunt Sarah, that's the only aunt, and my cousin Lotte and her two children, Esther and Saul. And there were, I mean, the shelter probably was made like for 20 people, and there were 50 people. So I said, you know, whatever will happen to me, I'm going out. Because I couldn't, there were also small children, and they cried, and there was no air, there was no water, you couldn't go to, you know, there was no toilet facilities, nothing.
Where was it located?
Where we lived, in under the house, they had built such a, I mean, it wasn't even, you know, safe, I think. It was like a door and you went down like in a basement, you know, but it was deeper than the basement. So we went out, my husband and my father. And my brother said he is not moving. If they want to shoot him, they can shoot him right here. And my cousin, Lotte, said, I'm not going either, because where will I go with my old mother and my two small children? So they stayed. So we went out, and we went to the place where the trucks were, and we went on the trucks. And when the trucks were moving, already, you know, to go out of the ghetto, we saw that they had started already to burn the ghetto. So we saw, you know, that that'll be the end of my family. So they took us to the train station, and they took us to the train, and they wear those red, you know, what you transport the animals or the stuff, and they put us in, and we were like herring in a barrel. You could hardly, you know, you were so squeezed together And there was no place like to sit down or to lie down, you were standing. And they closed it up. Probably took like half a day until they took everybody. And then they took us. We celebrated here in Springfield our 50th wedding anniversary. And because it's Purim, so we have a Suda in our temple, so we always, we didn't sponsor the whole, but for our 50th we sponsored the whole Suda, everything. We ordered platters, and everything. And we got a lot of congratulatory notes and people. So I wrote a thank you note to the bulletin in our temple, and I wrote that when we got married 50 years ago, we didn't know if we lived to see the next day, and here we are with children and grandchildren, and we made it.